Chapter 17. Ducks. The unstoppable spear might not be able to penetrate the immovable shield, but it can still make a crack, and a weapon with more force than the spear can break it open. Ted took a short walk, crossing the street, and walked into the Nathan Tufts Park. He walked upon the shaded path to the tower. He took a brief look at it, making it look like he was even marginally interested in it. He investigated the blank, empty gate that went into the tower. It was locked. He walked down the path to find an unoccupied bench. Looking around, he made sure that no one else was there so he could relax a moment. Satisfied, he sat himself down on the bench. He looked out on towards the empty street. The sun gazed down through the clouds and through the tree line. He leaned back into his seat, crossing his legs, and his arms relaxed behind the back of the bench. He deeply sighed before retreating to his thoughts. Why? How cruel can you be? You will not let me part from this world, and that is the only thing I want. I don't want friends, and I don't want or need a family. I entered this world with very little, and what little I had was violently ripped from me and left me to ponder the cruelty you left me in, and God, here you are, mocking me, trying to give me hope when I can't see past the tunnel. He whispered softly to himself, barely audible past his lips. Even he hardly heard those words, mildly distracted by the chirping birds up in the sky, and the ribbits of the frogs nearby. You have shown me the light in the tunnel, but as with all good things, I can't trust it. You know I can't trust it. You know I can't trust you. How cruel can you be? A warm summer breeze brushed past him. He caught the sweet aroma of wild flowers in its wake. The scent of pine was pungent and assaulted his nostrils, but he didn't care. It was one of his favourite smells. Funny, he lost his sense of taste, but not his smell. By some fluke chance I missed something. I let my guard down once for just 1 minute, out of a desperation to get in my door, and now she knows where I live. Was that, he stammered, was that your doing? Lord, are you trying to tell me something? Are you really trying to tell me I should be giving this cursed life one last chance before cancelling out a subscription I never signed up for? This was something I didn't want. I never asked for any of it, and yet you forced me to pay a price higher than any have paid. Ted was not a praying man, nor was he a spiritual one. He was never given the opportunity to tell his friends how he felt, to process his grief, nor could he trust a therapist. Yet here he was, praying to nothing, just talking to himself in a public park. By some fluke, you want my heart when it is garbage. It is filled with scars. You stabbed it. You shot it full of bullet holes. You cast it into the furnace. You crushed it with buildings. My heart is beyond repair, and it is dead. And yet, because you stubbornly say so, it keeps beating and powering up this soulless husk. I feel just like Frankenstein. I didn't ask for the life my Creator gave me, yet I'm cursed with this cruel existence. Even for the very purpose I was thrust in that life. 10 years ago the wars stopped. 10 years ago there was no further need for me to kill anyone anymore. You knew that, and yet forced me to kill nearly 200,000 men in the blink of an eye, and every single one of them I would have called my brother or my sister. Now I know better. What do you want from me? Why won't you just let me go and let me die? Your forgiveness can't reach me, and I'm cursed to go to hell, and with a monster like me, there is no better place for me. Just let me go, and let me... His train of thought severed when a little flock of ducklings, led by their mother, walked in front of him. He counted the flock, and the flock was large for ducklings. There totalled 15 ducklings and the mother. There was a duckling in the back that caught his eye. The little duckling had a few black spots on its feathers, and it waddled with a little limp. The little duckling squeaked. Ted watched its little webbed foot, and it appeared that something was not quite connected right, as if the poor little creature was born wrong. Would it be a mercy-killing to put the duckling out of his misery? He leaned over and placed his hand on the ground. His palm faced the sky. The little duckling turned its little head to him, as if everything stopped, and as if the little duckling knew something. He waddled over to Ted's hand and climbed on top of it. Ted rose the little duckling to his face and pet the little duck. He smiled as the cute little feet stepped onto his hand like a marching band. Ted investigated the black, empty orbs in its skull. The mother duck stopped waddling and looked at Ted as he pet her little duckling. She quacked, flapping her wings erratically, walking towards Ted, who simply traded a gaze, lying even to her. He placed the duckling down, no longer considering killing it. The little duckling returned to its flock and went back in line, as the mother duck led the way into whatever paradise awaited them, a paradise he was banished from. "I'm glad you haven't lost your soft spot yet," he heard a familiar voice right next to him. The voice was so nostalgic that he lost his sense of location. The voice of so many memories, the good ones, swept over him. He turned to the left to see a little girl, aged, if he remembered right, 15. She was the youngest of them all, and she was the closest one to him. She wore torn black cargo pants, a black long-sleeved shirt with her vest draped over it. Her black hair was down, and one blue eye was hiding behind her hair, while the other one had blood smeared over it. Just below her abdomen was bleeding black blood. She smiled at him, that same playful smile he fell in love with. It was full of energy and hope, and the love to match it. He frowned. Slithers, he gasped. He didn't mean to. She looked real to him, as if he was looking at an actual person, and not the ghost his mind conjured up. Ghost, she answered, smiling as blood dripped down her head. I miss you. We all do. I love you. He choked on his sobs. He knew he was overdue for this, but he didn't expect it to hit him out in the open, exposed. Ghost, I love you too. We all do. She smiled back at him. Tell me, have you lost your tender heart already? I don't think you have. Every morning, it breaks a little more each passing day. Every single day. I dream these nightmares as they cascade over my insomnia, oppressing me far more than they ever could. I'm stuck in the past, and I want to leave it behind, but I don't want to leave it behind. He sobbed, tears streaming down his face, and his smile faded, and his face was cringing. I know when I wake up I'll never see any of you again. I'll never see any of you again. The life we lived was cruel, said Slithers. We were all tormented inside, especially with everything that we had to do. We were darkness, we were bitterness, we were hatred. But you taught us all something before the end. Do you remember what you said to me? I can't remember, he sobbed. I can't remember. That the odds were against us. But if there was a chance, a slither of a chance, that we could succeed in doing something good, in leaving some kind of legacy for humanity to follow, just one chance, it was worth it. Whatever it was, even if that chance was infinitely worse, it would be worth it for a chance to get this hell undone, she answered. Ghost, we were darkness, and when the darkness was too oppressive, you were our light. You were our captain, our moral compass. It was through you that we never killed anyone innocent. It's because of you no civvies were ever killed on our watch. That was something, wasn't it? Was it worth it for even just that? And everything we fought for is being undone now as we speak, he sobbed. Our sacrifices were all meaningless. Was it, Ghost? Was any of it meaningless? Her hand touched his. He felt the warm blood touch his hand. She grabbed it and brought it to her cheek, and his hand felt her flesh as it was before the last fires raged 8 years ago. The flesh was so real in his hands. She took her free hand and pulled out a ring, a scrappy ring at that. The ring was nothing more than a few nails welded together, and embedded in the ring were fragments of bullets welded together. He recognized that ring. He looked but never found it. The ring he made for her over 8 years ago. The ring that he made for her was akin to that of a marriage, something he picked up from listening and watching his parental figures, Major and Lieutenant Nakamura, and whatever it was they had together was what he wanted with Slithers, and he nearly had it. Was this meaningless? She said to him. No. He sucked in the air through his teeth, gasping as he tried to stifle more sobs. But this was not normal for him. For the tears never stopped, like a river dammed up with a cracking dam. The wall was finally chipped. It was worth everything. Everything was planned. You and I were to be together that Saturday, but for you and for them, you never got to see that Saturday. I know, she said. I know. I know our parents wouldn't have wanted to see us like that, but that wasn't for them to decide. No, we were born with a purpose, and our tale ended, but yours still goes on. Ghost, if there is a slither of a chance to undo this hell, if there is a slither of a chance, and if that chance is infinitely worse than it was back then, it is still worth it. Our time is over. Your time is still moving forward. Time stopped for me, and it kept going for you. She leaned to him and looked at his now sobbing and swelling eyes. We all lived with a cruel existence, but you gave us light. Who else can you bless with your light? How can I when I see only darkness? The mask faded, and it's not all okay. It's not okay anymore. He knew she referred to her biological parents, the ones she never met. Ted didn't know who his parents were either, only the dreaded Nakamura's. Her forehead touched his. He closed his eyes. You say you're not okay. You say that all you see is darkness around you. That's okay. Because that was once my reality. You broke the darkness, and the light forced its way in. The light is there, Ghost. It's right there. You know it is. You must let it in. Just let it in. We can't stand seeing you like this. Just let it in." He opened his eyes, and he saw Slithers with her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She smiled at him, shading his face with her white sun hat that wasn't there before. Her blood-stained uniform faded to a blue sundress. "Just let it in. You need to let the past stay in the past, Ghost. I know you don't want to forget us, but this pain isn't doing anything good. Maybe, Ghost, the reason you can't seem to really kill yourself is because you know that doing that will kill all memory of us," she said. This cut through his heart, and he could feel it bleeding inside his chest. "You gave us hope when there was none. Now it's time for someone to share that hope with you. I love you. We all do." She kissed him gently on the lips before her body changed into a wind of flowers, flying like petals as they burned away from his hallucination. His hands trembled uncontrollably, and the light reflecting upon his eyes shimmered. His body felt weak as he leaned forward. He curled himself up on the bench, holding his knees tightly to his chest as the tears swelled into his eyes, streaming onto the bench, making a waterfall drip on the pavement of the path. He felt like a soaked sponge, being twisted and wrung dry, and then cast carelessly to the side of the sink. Jennifer," he stammered. "Why do you look like her?" He couldn't deny the similarities between Slithers and Jennifer. Granted, Jennifer was older than Ted by perhaps 5 years, assuming his estimation of his own age was accurate. They had the same build, the same coloured hair, the same colourful and playful smile and laugh. Even the smell seemed the same, the smell of patience and care. It was something that he didn't smell much of in the world. No matter how bad things got, or hopeless, Slithers always smelled like there was an abundance of patience and care. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to let it go.